Hi everyone. So after speaking with my field instructor, I decided to choose a social justice topic that reflects the demographic that I serve both through my internship and through my regular employment, and that is those addicted to drugs and alcohol. Primarily, however, I wanted to cover a social justice issue that is kind of a red button topic right now, and that is harm reduction. I'm going to kind of keep my discussion more specific to Ohio, which is where I both work and reside, and I'm doing my internship. Just because each state has their own harm reduction programs, and to kind of go into that would, that would take quite a long time. So I'm going to stick with just Ohio. And I kind of want to start by talking about one of the biggest issues that Ohio faces right now, and that is the opiate epidemic and overdoses that result from the opiate epidemic. Currently, Ohio ranks in the top 10 for the amount of opiate-related deaths. And so I kind of wanted to share with you some data that I got from a website from Harm Reduction Ohio, and this is a program that compiles data about overdoses, and it categorizes this by month, how many overdoses were in that particular month for that year. The data I'll be sharing with you is from last year. This year has not been compiled yet. But this has to do with fatal drug overdoses for Ohio residents. So, for example, like I said, I'm going to be sharing last year's with you. The most overdose deaths ever since they started compiling this data in 2015 occurred in May of last year. And you'll remember that was kind of at the height of the pandemic. May of last year, actually, Ohio was completely shut down. You could not be out in public unless absolutely necessary. And during that month, there were 571 deaths related to overdose. Following that, for the following 5 months, records were set for the highest number of overdoses for that month since they started compiling the data in 2015. So going from May all the way until October, there were 499, 468, 368, 400, and 400. For the year of 2020, there were a total of 4,810 overdose deaths, overdoses related to opiate use. That's a lot. That's a lot. And as a matter of fact, the county where I'm working and residing, Scioto County, is ranked number 1 in the number of overdose deaths in all of Ohio. So it's a big issue here. So some of the things that they're trying to do as far as harm reduction is concerned is first and foremost distributing naloxone, which is Narcan, commonly known as Narcan. You can pick it up without a prescription at any local pharmacy. You can also pick it up at our local health department. I apologize, that's my light, it's automatic. You can also pick that up at our local health department. And it's provided to anyone. I personally carry Narcan with me in my purse. It's not uncommon to find people overdosed in the grocery store parking lot, and so I want to always be prepared, in the event that I ever encounter someone who is experiencing overdose, and I want to be able to help. And Narcan is the first line in, in preventing overdose death. There has been, a lot of resistance towards harm reduction programs in the state and in our county especially, because a lot of people feel that these programs enable addicts. They give a free license to use drugs. It's been my experience working in the field that that's just simply not the case. No one that I've ever encountered has ever just woke up one day and said, hey, I want to be a heroin addict. Hey, I want to risk my life every day by using, or, I want to have multiple overdoses. Nobody wants that. So Narcan is certainly not a license to use freely. And there are many cases where Narcan simply isn't enough, especially in instances where the person has used fentanyl, which now can be found in a lot of other substances. I've encountered many people in my work who have overdosed because they thought they were using heroin, but they were actually using fentanyl, or there was fentanyl mixed in with the heroin, resulting in an overdose. So even heroin on the streets isn't heroin anymore. It's becoming more and more dangerous for addicts to use, and they're aware of that. They know that. And harm reduction programs, especially ones that distribute Narcan, are extremely helpful in preventing overdose deaths. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and it's something that we just recently started here in Scioto County. Well, I say recently, it was actually started in 2015, but just recently doubled, is a needle exchange program. Now, according to a news article, in 2015, there were 85,000 syringes exchanged. But since that time, they've seen an increase in the amount of needles that were exchanged. And this also, is something that has gotten a lot of negative feedback from the community, because, again, people often assume that, giving out clean needles is giving a free license to use drugs. And, truth be told, it's not. According to the CDC, what they call syringe service programs, or what I'm calling needle exchange program, have a lot of benefits. It helps prevent the transmission of bloodborne infections. The CDC reports data that states that SSPs, or syringe service programs, are associated with an estimated 50% reduction in HIV and hepatitis C incidence when combined with medications that treat opioid dependence. So there's a huge benefit as far as public safety is concerned in utilizing these programs. CDC also says that they help stop substance use. And the reason that is, it sounds counterintuitive. We think that, when we're providing clean needles for IV drug users, the assumption is that, it's just going to keep them provide them tools to use with. But what happens with these needle exchange programs is when people come in to exchange needles, they're also given pamphlets and given information on drug treatment programs in their area. Also, given information on the consequences of drug use. Every person that exchanges needles will receive contact information for substance use treatment facilities in their area. So these programs help provide access to treatment that people might not get otherwise. It really helps with putting the word out there about what programs are available. Many people don't know that there are programs available, or what kind of help, or how to get that help. So these help stop substance use in that regard. It also helps support public safety. It's possible to contract HIV if you're not an IV drug user. It's possible to contract hepatitis C if you're not an IV drug user. But what this also does is it helps keep dirty needles off the streets, because it's a needle exchange. So you don't go in and you just get free needles. You have to bring in used needles to exchange for clean needles. So it helps keep dirty needles, from littering the streets, which is obviously a public health hazard. So they have many benefits. It's something that I feel passionate about, and it's part of a program, a consortium, an opiate consortium is what they call it, that I'm a member of here in our community, that meets monthly to discuss what we're doing to combat the opiate epidemic. And part of that is utilizing harm reduction programs like needle exchanges and Narcan distribution. So those things are extremely helpful, and without them, it means that there are more overdose deaths in our area. It means there's a higher incidence of hepatitis C and HIV. There are just so many benefits to having these programs that kind of outweigh the cost, and certainly in my mind outweigh the stigma that comes with them. So that is my social justice topic that I wanted to talk about, and I'm of course open to any questions you guys might have, and I thank you. Goodbye.